guys, I'm Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop, and today I'm going to show you how to add a quilt sleeve to your quilt for easy display. This quilt features the Agatha Road collection by Fig Tree Quilts for Moda fabrics, and we're going to use the same fabric that is on the backing, and we are going to put this on before the binding is all the way done. For your quilt sleeve, we're going to start with an 8.5 inch by width of fabric strip. Then you will take the width of your quilt. This is 31 inches minus 3/4 of an inch, so that's 30.25 inches. So this is 8.5 by 30.25. Now let me show you how to make the quilt sleeve. Now you'll take your quilt sleeve, put it right sides together, and on each short end, we are going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam and back stitch at the beginning and the end. Once you have the ends sewn, you're going to turn this right side out. Now what we're going to do is press this nice and flat and make sure the raw edges at the top are nice and flat and straight. I'm going to use the purple thing and just get that nice and poked out. So you want to make sure you put the sleeve on the top of your quilt if it's directional. So this is the top of my quilt. I'm going to turn it over and I'm just going to crease right where that center is. So that makes it easy to see with the pin. Then I'm going to fold the quilt sleeve in half, put a pin, keep the raw edges at the top, and we're going to put this at the top, lining up those centers. Now when you look on this side, this is your binding stitch line. It's right here, so make sure you know where that line is. So you put your sleeve up to that line, and then it needs to go above it by about 1/8 of an inch. Because when you pull that binding over, you're trying to cover that line. You just want to make sure you have this high enough where when you pull this binding back, it is going to encase the sleeve at the top. Now once you have this in place, you want to turn the quilt right side up, and then you want to sew this down. You want to start at one end and you want to stitch on the other side of the binding strip. So if you're right here, you want to go about 1/8 of an inch above it so that when you flip your binding, your stitches do not show. This is the stitch we put the binding down. Above it, that is the basting stitch. When you look on the back, you just want to make sure it's completely basted all the way around. If you've missed any pieces, you can just go back and baste that down. Then you'll turn your quilt around. I'm going to use a friction pin, and I'm going to just draw a line at the bottom of the sleeve. And I'm not going to stitch right there. I'm going to move this back. I'm going to draw a line 1/4 inch above that. And I'm going to make my line a lot thicker so I stitch to the correct line. And then you're going to move the folded edge up to the darker line, and you're going to stitch all the way across, and I'm going to hand stitch that down. I don't want to see that on the front of my quilt. And what that does is it gives your quilt room for that pole to hang. If you stitch it right here, it's going to bunch up when you hang that up. So you're going to stitch this down. After that's done, then you will just fold your binding over and stitch it like you normally would. And there's your quilt sleeve. So now you can see what this looks like once we get the binding all the way around the edge. And when you flip this over, this is what the back looks like, and you can see the quilt sleeve, those raw edges are now enclosed in the binding, and it's a little bit puffy, and that's because we sewed this 1/4 inch up from it being flat so it can hang and it won't pull on your quilt. So I hope you've enjoyed this quilt binding tutorial. If you want a little bit more detail, we do have a blog post with all this information. It's in the description box. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.